Hi, and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of March 22, 2021. In terms of the stock market direction, I think that the market will go down for this week, and by market, I mean primarily Dow Jones and NASDAQ indexes. And generally speaking, I think this will be a relatively tense week with increased probability of various disasters, accidents, earthquakes, geopolitical tensions, protests, and things like that. And in particular, areas related to transportation and communication might be affected. That includes businesses in those areas, such as, say, car manufacturers, airlines, etc., as well as the actual accidents may involve cars, airplanes, and fast-moving objects, or perhaps athletes that are participating in some sort of extreme sport that again involves like cars or flying and things like that. Let's see, for the period of March 19 through the 23rd and especially the 22nd of March, there may be generally increased news about these kind of businesses, the communication, transportation, and also anything that's related to like data processing, for example, the online retailers, social media, but also military, weapons sales, and sports, and as I mentioned, particularly extreme sports or sports that involved basically fast-moving objects, car racing, even shooting and things like that. And there may be news about trade deals or some sort of long-term engineering projects or restructuring projects where I've heard last week that JetBlue was considering moving their headquarters from New York to Florida. So it could be something along those lines, as well as just generally maybe starting to build a new manufacturing facility or just changing how certain parts are again not developed, but maybe again manufactured, or which parts to use, for example, which parts of the engine to use. So something along the lines of this long-term, well thought out, well planned, but also kind of time consuming and slowly developing project. I think there's a good chance of it being announced this week, especially on the 22nd and 23rd of March. And I think that especially for those industries, especially communication, transportation, if there is such an announcement, it may potentially put a damper on the value of related like products and services and businesses, because there may be concerns about long-term investments kind of being taxing on basically being expensive, and that the profits may not come very quickly, because again this might take some time for those changes to take place. Then also the period of from about March 22nd through April 1st, and particularly 25th through the 27th of March, may see some news about products related to similarly, not transportation, but rather weapons, military, and sports. So anything that involves like this aggressive kind of macho sort of activities, or something that's dangerous or risky, or involves things that can explode or again can be dangerous. So maybe fast cars, like various rockets, engines, explosive materials, etc. So the value of such businesses or products or even perhaps materials that are used for those same explosive materials may go up this week, and again especially on the 25th through the 27th of March. And or there may be news about, say, individual athletes receiving maybe greater than usual amount of reward for, maybe they're being, rewarded for some achievement, or perhaps there's a large weapons sale, or just the price of weapons goes up, or something along those lines. Then March 22nd through the 26th, so pretty much this week, there may also be problems for, yet again, communication and transportation industries. And so again, we're talking about manufacturers of, say, cars and airplanes, airlines, any sort of, bus services, etc., or social media, online retailers. All of those industries may experience problems this week. It could be from sort of as bad as of an accident, like an airplane accident or car-related accident that somehow, makes it into the news that because of some significance. Or it could be just problems with services are down, or, the network is down, or there's some negotiations or deals that are not quite going well, and there's this kind of a tense negotiations about, say, making a sale, but the parties can't enter into agreement because some details are missing, or one party is misrepresenting something, or hiding details about their product, or what the say how something works, like how the engine truly works. And so this may result in these deals either not going through, or if they do go through, it would be under pressure from sort of one side to another. And eventually those deals that are reached, again, specifically for transportation and communication this week, they may actually be overturned in the future because of, if it was entered into under pressure, it may actually backfire later on. So there could be some stalled negotiations, failed acquisition attempt, also delays associated with transportation, some problems with communication, or perhaps, again, some online platform goes down, or there's a big uproar over some statements that are made, again, on social media by some important leader. And again, it brings a lot of kind of not confusion, but rather disagreements and discontent, and things can escalate this week, even to the point where, again, there are geopolitical tensions that escalate to some military clashes, or it could be a confusion where perhaps something was an accident, like involving, again, something that's flying literally, like through the air, like a rocket or airplane, or something that moves really fast, like a fast car, where you can say, oh, it's flying because it's moving so fast, or a bicycle, perhaps like some race or something like that. So there could be an accident perhaps related to that, but because of the overall tensions, it may be misinterpreted by, say, one of the countries as intentional, and this again can lead to escalating situation, unfortunately. And not the best time for traveling by, again, car or airplane. Certainly would be a good time to be careful, because there could be just misinformation, like a signal is not sent in the right time. There's some miscommunication about what time something should leave, something misfires, or there's a fog, and so the moving vehicle cannot see where it's going. So there's just basically some potential problems with that. And another area where this week, but really through March 22nd through 26th, there may be some increased concerns or problems or even protests, is related to education. So teachers, students, or young people in general, those who are kind of still learning basically, or are being taught, or teachers. And there could be, again, protests, strikes, or there could be some problems with, say, online teaching platform, or there may be some confusion as far as, or disagreement as far as who should teach what, and what should be, the content of perhaps some sort of lecture or something. And things may especially heat up on the 23rd and 24th. And generally speaking, Wednesday of this week, also for the stock market, most likely will be the strongest, so we'll see the strongest down move, and will likely be the most kind of tense, difficult day of the week. For China, first let's finish for the 22nd. It seems to be a significant day in the US chart, and there we may expect increased focus on leaders and prominent persons, and specifically focus on their health and finances. Perhaps taxes or the investments are scrutinized, and there may also be increased emotional reaction from public on some news about them being either sick or losing a lot of money, or somehow their safety being compromised, and something along the lines of, like, prominent person, for example, they're not safe in their house because their house has been robbed, or caught fire, or their health is a concern, and public is sort of emotionally reacting to such news. So for China, it's also a significant week in terms of the transits to China's horoscope, and specifically March 23rd through the 28th seems to be an important time, and especially within that time frame, the 24th and the 25th of March. And there may be increased focus on partnerships and agreements, and the situation may be tense, and that's specific to China, in addition to global situation being tense. For China, there might be tension where the country may be sort of focusing on its new goals or new kind of vision of how it wants to conduct business, and it will, subjectively perceive that partners are too slow, or partners are too rigid, or that they kind of demand that things be done the old way, and sort of China wants to move faster. So there may be disagreements about that, about being perceived as being pressured from the outside. And so again, that might lead to some tensions regarding various agreements. In addition, for China, again, this week, there's also increased probability of various problems, such as like earthquakes, accidents, building damage, various types of losses, such as due to like a spike of epidemic or some disaster. So losses or some problems, and also feeling sort of pressure from external partners who appear to be, again, from China's perspective, perhaps pressuring it into doing things the old way, the slow way, when it's actually wanting to go in its own kind of direction and do things faster, the new way that it wants to go. So then the 24th, Wednesday, as I mentioned, is going to be a fairly tense day, and that's when there might be the max, I would say, this week, probability of various protests, accidents, threats, like, due to some geopolitical tensions, unrests, attacks, and especially people who are either, traveling, and especially, again, by car and air, or are involved in communication transportation businesses, and or they are like related to military, or they're athletes. And those people, because again, I guess they're more likely to be engaged in various like dangerous activities, like extreme sports type people. And unfortunately, that's not the best time for like, driving, flying, etc. And I would skip participating in any sort of extreme sports, especially on Wednesday. And also the other problem that might arise, there might be just general problems communicating, where information doesn't quite reach, the intended party, or something gets obscured. Like I said, literally traveling in the fog, signal doesn't get through, or something is misinterpreted and distorted. And so if there's an agreement, or just people are communicating, things may be taken out of context and appear to be more threatening than perhaps is intended. So things may escalate unnecessarily just because of some confusion. Let's see, on Thursday is also pretty much the whole week, but Thursday is also looking like a down day to me, although not as bad as Wednesday. However, Thursday and Friday, both of those days, I think there's continuing probability of like protests, accidents, unrest, threats, attacks, etc. And so if, say, there is a threat that's made by, say, one country to another on the 24th, on the 25th is when we may see some sort of follow-up actions. And generally speaking, 25th through the 27th of this week may see an increased probability of like some important announcement, event, or accident involving cars, airplanes, especially airplanes that are not necessarily passenger, but rather military ones, or something that's like not old, but like small airplanes that go extra fast, some sort of jet. Also increased probability of fires, fighting, weapons, or problems, accidents associated with like risky activities or risky behaviors. And so this could be like a transportation or communication company can experience some difficulties with their services, or perhaps they may appoint a new leader who is like extra aggressive and pushing for some new risky aggressive strategies. Or it could be a little actual fire, explosion, accident that involves fast-moving vehicles or a flying object. or accidents and attacks that involve prominent individuals, especially, like I said, military leaders or athletes. And there could be increased conflicts over some agreement or deal where parties are in disagreement or what, how the deal should be, whether the deal should be, I guess, reached. And the deal itself may be about communication, transportation, or anything to do with like weapons, cars, car engines, explosives, and sports. Let's see, the 25th through the 30th of March, there the focus may shift towards things like healthcare, pharmaceuticals, medicines, treatments, and there could be news about some new treatments or new medicines or new policies regarding like healthcare, medicines, etc. And there potentially may be announcements about new treatments that work faster or treatments that specifically affect problems that are related to head, wounds from like being shot or burned, or like various like cut, puncture wounds, basically, especially those that are sustained, let's say, by soldiers or athletes, and or due to like fires, etc. And so the news may be positive in the sense that there will be this new opportunity, or perhaps there's a way to develop some medicine faster, or the medicine itself works faster than before, faster than thought, and that particular new treatment or new medicine may also go up in price or receive additional funds for its development, because again, it will be seen as having good perspectives, especially, as I said, for treating soldiers, athletes, or head trauma and injuries from shooting, burns, cuts, etc. Then finally, Friday, I think still it will be a down day, but it doesn't look as bad yet. Again, it will be slightly improving compared to Wednesday. However, still increased probability of protest, accidents, etc. And an additional influence on Friday is that there may be increased international negotiations or discussions involving long-distance transportation, travel, immigration, and things like that. So perhaps, again, there was a threat on the 24th, follow-up activities based on the threat on the 25th, and by 26th, maybe parties will be trying to engage into some reconciliatory negotiations, and there may be some even laws or legal actions taken to basically make sure that certain influence or certain, I guess, certain activities are legalized, or perhaps put pressure on another party through, say, either embargo, tariffs, or enter into actual official international agreement, sign up some laws regarding immigration policies, or whether or not somebody can travel internationally, etc. And that's on Friday, and I think that this might be an attempt to resolve some more tense situations that may be occurring on 24th and 25th. And also for the stock market, the 26th of March could see increased, and plus minus I would say a day or two, but especially the 26th may see increased news about gold and silver, and there may possibly a reversal in the direction in gold and or silver from the 25th through the 26th, or at least there might be increased sort of volatility or increased news about those areas, and there possibly may be a drop followed by an up move, and it could be a drop on the 25th, up on the 26th, but somewhere around that time there may be a big drop followed by an up move, and I think that's the time frame. Again, 25, 26 is when that might occur. And generally speaking, for like gold and or silver, as well as financial policies for the US, month of April, August, and December will be significant this year, and especially coming up in April, significant day will be April 17th, so plus minus few days, where again there may be some reversals in the direction of gold and silver, and those most likely will be related to some announcements about financial policies in the US or value of US dollar, and potentially this could be a top for gold and silver around April 17th. That's sort of a more long-term trend. let's see, more on the longer term trend for the US starting in April, so soon enough, I guess not this week, but coming soon, through March of next year of 2022, there may be some increased news on industries related to like oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, as well as potentially news about excessive precipitation, water erosion, hurricanes, soil contamination, beverages, drugs, religion, etc. And there we may see increased developments related to US oil industry, and this may actually, as I mentioned, late April to early May will be like a bigger first wave of such news, and these might be significant on a large scale where things may be perhaps if some business was open for many decades even, it may now be undergoing some major changes, or the entire industry may be pivoting, and there may be some basically, so say, concerns in those industries, so they may experience some potential problems where maybe there's like an accounting error or some details of what they were reporting, like whether something is or isn't contaminated, or they're engaging in deceptive practices. So again, this could be related to any of these Neptunian areas such as oil, gas, also Navy, and also pharmaceuticals, chemicals, drugs, etc., or even religion, so some churches, etc. There may be some concerns about details being hidden, books not really matching, as well as just some problems where if there's like an audit of their activities, there may be some problems and things may not add up, and it may lead to dissatisfaction from basically about the performance of these businesses, and kind of dissatisfaction that they're not reporting things honestly, or their status of the report of their condition is uncertain. But also there may be concerns about excessively wet weather, precipitation, hurricanes, etc., damaging related businesses. So perhaps ships and boats may be damaged, or places such as churches, hospitals could be, or aquariums can sustain extra damage again due to like wet weather, floods, etc. So this entire period from April of 2021 through March of 2022, and short term, especially late April through early May for the US, may see this kind of influence. And let's see, so also worth mentioning as far as specific kind of global influence for oil, coming up in April, especially April 8th through 11th, may see increased now focus globally on things related to oil, but also gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, Navy, all of those Neptunian subjects. And at that time, I think the news can be basically that there are problems. So it could involve, again, some accidents involving ships, attacks even involving ships, fires that are, on the oil rig, or fires on the oil processing plant, or some just verbal attacks among, the manufacturers, or basically some disagreements about oil prices. And at the same time, I think we may see a large market drop. And again, we're talking like NASDAQ and Dow Jones, particularly around April 8th through 11th. And I think 8th and 9th are the actual trading days. I think the rest is the weekend. And then moving, just looking rather even further ahead, and I mentioned that before, but it's worth repeating, that end of June, so from about the 29th through early July through about the 9th, is going to be an extra, I would say, dangerous and difficult time. That's again globally, because we will have this T-square involving Mars, Saturn, and Uranus, and it will involve Taurus and Aquarius, and basically previously under similar conditions there were major accidents involving like explosions, especially explosions of fireworks, and so things that are not really secured may overheat, or if they're improperly stored, basically things can get out of control. And of course and that's the time where in the US, of course, 4th of July is the holiday where specifically it involves fireworks. So I would be cautious. I would personally, of course, I don't even use fireworks, but I would be extra careful because it may be perhaps a dry summer, or there will be some other problems. Of course, it may also see some increased protests, but also again on a global scale, this is the time where there may be increased like earthquakes, some problems with the weather, and potentially escalation just in terms of violence, and just because many people probably will experience this difficult configuration as aspecting their natal charts. And so there will be many people dealing most likely with just some difficult times in their personal lives, like they may be involved in an accident, or they may just feel a lot of pressure at work, or whatever the circumstances may be. And obviously when people feel pressure, they're less likely to pay attention when they are driving, or they have shorter fuse, etc. So basically again, that would not be the time that I would personally take vacation and try to relax, because I think that actually might be a more difficult time, and that would be the time that I would be extra careful and kind of stay in a safe somewhere that's nice, safe, and peaceful and quiet. So that's about it for me for this week. Hope you find this useful and come back and check me out next week. I have more predictions also at my blog at tostunka.com if you want to see, for example, details on the oil prices in 2021. In my weekly predictions, I have a list of the significant days that you can check out. And until then, have a great week, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.